Happy New Year.
Yeah. Happy New Year. Right.
How are you?
I'm well.
Should we give AG1 some love?
Yeah. You know what? AG1, the cool thing about AG1 is my entire family is on the program now.
Me too.
And I've also started putting my AG1 in the refrigerator, the powder.
I didn't know that you were supposed to do that until my mom got on the AG1 program, and then she told me, and I'm like, I had no idea. She goes, yeah, you should read the directions.
I know. That's exactly what happened with me. My wife's like, it's supposed to be refrigerated. So now she's got it in the refrigerator.
Yeah, me too. In my mind, it works just the same as it was when it wasn't refrigerated. But here's the deal. AG1 is Athletic Greens. athleticgreens.com/surf is our portal for our listeners to support us. And the reason that they should support us is that they can arm their immune system with convenient daily nutrition, especially kind of in the wintertime, cold and flu season. But in light of New Year's resolutions as well, everybody's looking to stay healthy. And this is just the easiest, quickest way to do it.
Totally agree. AG1 is a big part of my daily routine, and I'm a huge fan. I can't recommend it enough. I mean, the upside's awesome. There is no downside. And for a guy like me, who's kind of on the go, I don't necessarily eat as well as I'd like to, and say that I do. AG1, it feels like when I drink AG1, it's like there's no more guilt about all the burritos I'm eating.
Totally. And a lot of people add supplements to their diet, and this is just kind of a one-stop shop. You can get rid of all those expensive supplements, get this done in 1 scoop a day. It's whole food sourced ingredients pulverized into a powder. So, but it then has vitamins, minerals, all that stuff added to it. By using our promo code, which is /surf, athleticgreens.com/surf, you get a year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and then 5 free travel packs. So do it to support us. Do it to support your own health. athleticgreens.com/surf.
Absolutely. Yeah, guy. Yeah, friggin' guy. David, good morning. It is Spit. It's the Spit podcast, David. We took a week off. Thank you for doing that. And let's see, it's January 5th. January 5th, 2022. Oh my, how the time flies, my friend. How long have you and I been doing this podcast?
Since 2014, I believe. It could have been 13, but I want to say it's 14. I'm going to look it up while we're talking. So this is our first show of 2022. So that would be 8 years.
Wow. All right.
Crazy, right?
Yeah. And yeah.
So first show of 2022. Welcome. Yeah. Happy New Year. Happy Christmas. Last time I saw you was just before Christmas. So yeah. How was your Christmas? How was your New Year's?
It was great. The Christmas was great. The New Year's was great. I went to Florida last week, which is why I wasn't around. And
chasing waves?
No, I almost went to Puerto Rico, but I was there visiting some family, and it was good. The last day, somebody in our inner circle got COVID, so we packed up. I was supposed to be at Surf Expo right now, but because I was around somebody that was positive, I didn't want to do the wrong thing and go to a trade show potentially, with, you just never know. And so I backed out of that here, and here I am in Southern California, and It's great to be here.
Awesome. Well, welcome home. Do you have any New Year's resolutions, or do you do that?
I don't necessarily do New Year's resolutions, but I wake up every morning, I go through sort of a routine, and I just hope to continue that, so I kind of get in the right mind frame for the day. Because it's easy for Scott to be all about Scott. Believe me, that's the default setting. And so I try to set up a situation where, I get into the day in a more positive flow. And so that's not necessarily a New Year's resolution, but it is something that I've been doing for a long time and that I hope to continue to do through this year.
I feel like the older we get, the longer we do this show, the more food and diet become a part of our conversation. It's usually gluttonously discussing what we're cooking that night or baking. Do you have any dietary New Year's resolutions? Do you want to lose weight or anything like that?
No, I don't necessarily need to lose weight. I mean, I might be, 3 or 4 pounds here or there.
Okay.
But I'm okay with that. And I do anticipate baking more bread. I did get this bread book, I'm not sure who sent it to me, but I got a bread book. And so I'm going to be baking more bread. So, there's that.
So was it Shukin that sent that? Did we
no,
ever get to the bottom of it?
I don't think it was, because Shukin sent me this book.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense.
I had it all the time, which is really a cool, fascinating book. And it's written by this guy, Alan Cohen. And Shukin had this book signed to
Holy
me
cow.
from Alan Cohen.
Amazing.
Isn't that cool of Shukin to do that? And I just read the first couple pages this morning, and it's really cool. There's an interesting here. I'll give you a quick anecdote from the book, if you don't mind. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
So there's this candid camera type of show, and they film this FedEx employee, a delivery guy, and they take a picture of him, and they get all these actors, like they often do in these shows. They get all these actors to dress up sort of like followers of a religious sect, like kind of like Swami Paramahansa, Swami Yogananda Paramahansa, like Swamis here. Like there's this building that they dress up as this, cultural building that's all about this sort of spiritual sect, or and they take a picture of the FedEx guy and they paint this incredible mural, and they have it as the center of this cultural sect in this building. And the FedEx guy drives up and he drops off the package, and these actors all come up dressed up like these swamis, these monks or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, the deity is here, oh my, come in, you must come in." And he's like, FedEx guy's like, "What the hell?" Candid camera, he doesn't know.
Right.
And he comes in and they unveil this gorgeous painting of him. And he's like, "Wow, that's me," And they're like, "Yes, you're our deity. Please come sit on the pillow and tell me what you know." And the FedEx guy's like, "Okay," and he sits on the pillow and he says, "Life is like a river. Sometimes the river has is flowing freely and fast and it's easy, and sometimes the river has rocks and stones and it's shallow and it's dangerous, but eventually the river spills into the ocean of your dreams." This is what the FedEx guy says. And the monks, the actors, and the monk guys are all like, they're like on bated breath on every word that the guy's saying. And he gets up and he leaves, and he's got to go do more deliveries. And they do this to like 5 or 6 FedEx employees, delivery guys. And they're just random dudes that are like probably watching fantasy football and just whatever, but when they sit on this pillow, when they realize that they're a deity, they actually come up with these amazing concepts. They come up with these great phrases, these great sort of life quotes, if you will. And the fascinating thing about that anecdote is that what he's saying in this book, at least the first part, is that deep down within all of us, we have the answers to serenity. We just don't ever look within. We're always like looking out for all the answers when the answers are within. Thus the title, "I Had It All the Time."
Fascinating.
Kind of a cool anecdote.
It is. And I think I was trying to assess why you don't know that you have it all the time, like that FedEx driver. And it's probably just you layer on so much bull crap every day. That FedEx driver's thinking about the bills he has to pay and his next delivery and the traffic and how to navigate around the traffic and all that stupid stuff. And it's like the serenity is within. You're just layering on bull crap.
Yeah, right. It's the sort of that cliche, the past is history, the future's a mystery, and today's the present. And, it's about kind of staying focused on right now. By the way, did you see this movie, Don't Look Up?
Yeah, I did.
Oh my God. What a great movie that was. That was so much fun.
It's so crazy. A lot of listeners probably are aware of it, but it's made by Adam McKay. And he did The Big Short a couple of years ago. And it stars everybody, right? Meryl Streep, Leonardo DiCaprio, Jennifer Lawrence, Jonah Hill, many, many more famous A-listers. But it's satire, and it's about our culture and our politics. And there's a meteor headed towards Earth, and the scientists identify it will blow up Earth with complete certainty. We're all going to die in 6 months. So they try to release this information. Nobody wants to hear the information. They don't believe the science. They take it straight to the White House, talk to the president about it. The president's like, no, it's going to hurt my campaign. Not interested. Don't want to hear it, until the president gets in hot water with something else and then wants to leverage this information to use it to bolster her campaign. Then the tech giant wants to monetize the meteor, and everybody's ignoring what is the inevitable because it's an inconvenient truth. But what's funny, again, I said it's satire. It actually is downplaying the reality that we live in now, which is why the film is so brilliant. So every scene that develops, you go, oh, this is just farcical. This is too crazy. That president is too crazy. That's like a lampoon of a president. And then you go, no, actually, they're playing it down. Every scenario that they set up, as farcical as it looks, is actually less farcical than the reality that we've lived in recent years. And that's what's the genius is in the movie.
Yeah, it's a great film, and everybody should watch it. It's fascinating. I loved it. I also saw another film that I'd like to touch on, if I may. I guess it'll be my must-see moment. And it's a Jacques Cousteau documentary on Disney Plus. It just came out. I don't know if you've seen this. I think it's called Becoming Cousteau.
Okay.
Something like that. But it's basically a lifelong look at Cousteau. And, you think, at least I thought I knew about Jacques Cousteau. Sorry, my dog's barking. Are you picking that up?
Barely. It's fine.
And, like I said, I know about Jacques Cousteau, the Calypso, that's kind of all I knew though, really, And so this documentary was a fascinating deep dive on who he was, where he came from, how he got to be who he is, what he's all about now. Of course, he's passed away, but, and there's some really fascinating stuff in this movie, and it's very inspiring from a Save the Oceans point of view. And I mean, if you're listening to this podcast and you're not about saving the ocean, I would question, you must be here for the sourdough recipes, because who knows what the ocean is so vital to our peace of mind and our serenity and our everything, it's so. Anyway, I would highly recommend that you watch the Cousteau documentary, almost as homework more than anything. You need to know about this guy and some of the fascinating things that he's done and created.
Interestingly, when I grew up, it was just pre-internet, basically. Like going through school, we had to go to the library to research projects or whatever. And Jacques Cousteau's books were the kind of a priority item in the library. Everything else was boring. And then you get to his stuff and you're just like, oh my gosh, this is interesting. And I feel he's fallen out of popularity, like as libraries are less important. I don't know that all the kids growing up now know his name in the way that my generation did.
You're right. And, you and I were from a generation where I think it was called The Undersea World of Jacques Cousteau. This was a series on, I think, ABC TV that went out to the world. Like, I mean, in the 70s and probably into the 80s, for sure in the 70s, it was like, 500 million people watched this documentary, this series of documentaries. He put in an hour-long show for, I want to say, 5 or 6 years. Apparently, as you'll find in the movie, he started to get really dark because he was like, we're fucking up, man. This is going wrong, And that's when ABC's like, you know what? It's kind of like Don't Look Up.
Yeah.
Because he's like, ABC's like, you know what? You're kind of going too dark and too cynical. We want kind of the happy Jacques, And he's like, dude, the Earth's going downhill quick.
Yeah, fascinating.
So they snipped the show when when the reality of the whole thing started to hit. It's interesting. It's very, very interesting.
Speaking of satire or spoof, did you ever see The Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou?
No, I didn't.
It's really good. It's kind of a send up of Jacques Cousteau. It's not based on him at all, but that character is kind of modeled after him.
Yeah. Bill
good.
Murray.
Yeah. Well, great recommendation. Glad to see you've been using your time off to catch up on that stuff?
Okay, here's another thing, and then we're just real quick want to say this. I just finished this book. Can you read what it says here? I can't.
Say Nothing, a true story of murder and memory in Northern Ireland.
Yeah, so I just finished this book. Wow, what a great book on the Troubles and what happened in Belfast in the 60s and 70s, and actually all the way through to right now.
Wow.
That's fascinating.
Cool.
Great read. Because I'm one of these guys that I know like just enough topical information to go, oh yeah, I know about that, but I really don't know shit.
Yeah.
You know, I'd never done a deep dive on Ireland. Like if I asked you, do you know
Yeah.
anything about the Troubles in Northern Ireland? Do you know anything about it?
Nope.
Like the Protestants, the Catholics, who was on whose side, any of that?
Nope.
I didn't either. And I've got a lot of Irish friends, and I bet on some level you probably do too, or some Irish in your blood. And of course, you know, the Irish in Boston, it's a big deal. So if you're at all interested, that's a great read right there.
Say
and
it
then
again.
Say Nothing, a true story of murder and memory in Northern Ireland. This is a New York Times bestseller.
Who's the author?
The author is Patrick Radin Keefe.
Got it.
Super good book. And then again, Shukin just got me this. I Had It All the Time by Alan Cohn.
All right.
And I ordered this.
Genghis Khan.
Genghis. Let's pronounce
Genghis,
it correctly. Genghis Khan, right?
By Jack Weatherford. And that interest, I would guess, was spurred by Dan Carlin's Hardcore History.
Yes, and I also did I send you a book?
Yeah.
Okay, so that book written by Holiday, I think it is.
Ryan Holiday.
So he sends out a newsletter, and his annual, New Year's newsletter was, these are the books that I'm suggesting that you read. And so this was one of the books.
Yeah.
The
Cool.
Genghis Khan book. So, and then I also got this one, which was on his list by the same guy, Weatherford, Indian Givers, How Native Americans Transformed the World. So I got these 3 books to now get into. And you know what? It's a New Year's show without a book recommendation. Come on.
Man, good use of your time, Scott. Glad to see that you've been productive. In surf news, Hawaii has been going absolutely off.
I just got a text from Randy Rarick about 3 minutes before we went on the air. He says, sunset is nuts all time. Super good, pumping. And I'm going to go take a peek at it while we talk here on Surfline. So, yeah.
Well, so a couple of things. Obviously, one way to track everything is the Vans Digital Triple Crown, because that's kind of a way to catch a bunch of highlights. Stab is also doing a series called The Pickup. It's a weekly show. It's about a 30-minute show. It's available on YouTube or on their website. And they're doing a fantastic job. They did this last year, maybe the year before. I think this year is the best iteration of it. They have multiple different commentators or pundits that they're pitching to. They do a recap of the week. They do an interview with somebody important, Jack Reeves, a laminator last week. This week was a lifeguard talking about CPR techniques. They'll profile somebody's quiver, what boards they bring to Hawaii for which different waves. And then they show highlights of the different surf breaks and who got the best waves of the week. So this is a great way to keep track of what's going on, in addition to Instagram, of course, being kind of up to the minute. A couple of highlights or important things that I think are worth discussing. The first direct flight from Australia landed in Hawaii in 2 years.
Wow, that is interesting.
Yeah. So that'll bring, obviously, there's COVID concerns, all that sort of stuff, but more to kind of your and I's interest for surfing, it brings a lot of Australian surfers to Hawaii that had not been there previously, which will affect, of course, event number 1 of the CT for 2022, the Pipe Masters. You want to get there and prepare for that.
Yeah, and that kicks off, I want to say, is that in February, the first event?
It is. The Backdoor shootout, though, waiting period started 2 days ago. So January 4th through the 16th.
Oh, well, maybe they're having the Backdoor shootout today.
I don't know.
Because I'm looking at it here. Lani Kea is really good. And I'll go check out Pipe, but cool. Yeah, it's pumping. There's, we had this incredible blob of high pressure just off Oregon and Washington and Northern California and sort of below the Aleutian Islands. And this high pressure was just keeping everything away as far as storm development. It was pushing all storms way north, or just, yeah, way north, up into Canada. And so we've had this, quite frankly, and you and I spoke about it, I think 2 weeks ago, but it's been a horrible winter for, at least for Southern California. And I would suggest to you that that does sound quite cliche, because it seems like I say it every year. Oh, but it's been really, really bad. Like, as far as swell production, like, it's been small and cold and crappy. And luckily that high pressure has broken down, and we do have some storms that are moving into our swell window, and we might start to see an uptick in surf here in California, specifically from Point Conception down, where most of us live.
Yeah. As it relates to Hawaii and the Hawaii season, I've got a question for you.
Mm.
Where the heck are Idolo and Gabe? I've tracked them. They're not in Hawaii. Should they be in Hawaii right now?
Well, I'm sure they have a pretty good handle on, when they need to be there and how quickly they can get into sort of Hawaii shape, for lack of a better phrase. It's funny, those guys, although they do have to surf sunset after pipe. So,
Good
because
call.
to me, it's like you can get used. Those two guys are such stud athlete surfers, professionals, that I think that they can, and for sure I know Gabe can get to Hawaii a week before and sort of get his bearings about him with I would say 4 or 5 or 6 surfs at pipe. Now that's assuming that when they get there, there's waves to be ridden at pipe. Sometimes it goes
Right.
bad for a week or whatever. So, and again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they need a little bit more time. Let's say they get there at January 20th. They've got basically 2.5, 3 weeks before the first event at pipe. That gives them time to kind of go back and forth between sunset and pipe, get their bearings. Those guys, for sure, Gabe, I think Gabe can land, a week out and be fine. Now, Gabe necessarily, I don't consider Gabe a super strong sunset beach surfer, but I'm sure he's had results. I just can't think of them.
I remember one crazy floater that he did there in the QS event 2 or 3 years ago. That was the one highlight that was just like, oh my gosh, nobody would have even gone for that move, and he stomped it.
The beauty of sunset is that it doesn't matter if you spend 6 weeks there surfing sunset only. It's such a wild card wave that each and every session, it's kind of got its own little fickle attitudes and moods. And so again, the beauty of it is that you can think you're prepared for sunset, but if when you wake up, all of a sudden it's 8-foot north swell sunset versus 8 to 12-foot west peak sunset, it just changes all the time. So it is a wild card. And again, I think that's part of the beauty of it. And that's why many guys don't like it, like Kelly Slater. I mean, he's actively said, it's not a wave I'd like to see on tour, because there's too much other stuff that happens, that occurs to the competitors, rather than just a blank canvas, a wave for me to rip and shred on every time, that I really know by like the back of my hand,
Which is why you and I love it.
Exactly. Which is why it's great for competitors. And it's fun. For fans, but it's also fun because, like, in a weird way, who's the guy I'm thinking of? There's a regular foot that always did really good. Won the Triple Crown one year, a Hawaiian guy. Anyway, his name's
I know. It starts with an M.
Yeah, it starts with an M, exactly.
Miles Padaka.
Yeah, Miles Padaka. A great example of a guy who knows sunset and did well out there. And as fans, it's kind of fun to go, oh, cool, Poncho's 43 and he's in the sunset event and he can win it, no problem. In fact, Michael Ho's a great example of a guy who's done really well there late in his, as he got older. And that's why I love sunset. And again, you and I also spoke about, look, I want the judges to make sure that they're judging big, the guys that are surfing outside, the big West Peak sats, rather than everyone sitting on the inside bowl and just trying to get the hook.
Slater's argument for we want a wave where we can kind of showcase our dominion over our surfboard is relevant. And that's why we have all these other waves on tour, or we've had lowers in the past, or certainly Surf Ranch allows you to kind of do that gymnastics. but we also need man versus nature. And I think that should always be man and woman versus nature. And so I think that should always actually be the priority. And so that's Sunset's relevance to the World Tour. And I'm thrilled to see it back. Your argument for Gabe and Idolo not needing to be there for a month or two, I don't know
about Idolo. I think Gabe for sure. Idolo's the one where I'm like, maybe he does need to be there.
I didn't agree with it prior to you saying it. Like, my thought was just get there. You guys are in the prime of your career, focus 10 years on winning world titles and just be in Hawaii. You can't have enough experience in Hawaii ultimately. But then when you made that argument, I think you're pretty much right. Certainly for Gabe, the argument could also be applied to Idolo, but you know who it doesn't apply to at all is Felipe Toledo. And Felipe is the guy who's behind those guys a little bit. He's also behind John a little bit. He's kind of barely in that top 5 conversation because you could substitute him out with Kanoa Igarashi, Jordy Smith, Kalohe Andino, maybe Griffin Colapinto even. And all those guys are betting or spending time in Hawaii and really investing there. And so I think Felipe would do really well. And he's also got the question mark next to his name when it comes to big waves in general.
Yeah, every year it's kind of like we speak the same sort of I guess we give the same sort of advice regarding Felipe. Not that we're in a position to give advice to him. He knows what he's doing, but as you were saying that, I was thinking to myself, you know what, I think Felipe's time's come and gone. I hate to say it. It's kind of like Julian when you're like, yeah, one more every year this could be Julian's year. And I feel like last year was Felipe's year. Like, dude, the finals are at Lowers.
I know.
Come on.
Well,
you couldn't ask for a better chance to win a world title than like, all you got to do is win at Lowers, do some of that stuff.
If he doesn't reinvent himself, then you're right. His time is come and gone. His time came, and all of that kind of momentum that he had from his youth and natural talent that he was born with, all of that expressed itself. But you need to then reinvent yourself. And we've seen John go through this. We've seen Gabriel go through this. Kelly's done it multiple times. Andy Irons had to do this. It's Felipe's time. And so investing in Hawaii, investing in big waves, all that stuff would be his way to do it. Now, I don't know if we're going to talk about it today, but Stab Magazine is doing their their surfers of the year is what they call it. And they basically ask people in the surf space, a lot of professional surfers, but also writers, photographers, filmmakers, whatever, who their favorite surfers of the year are, and they assign points to each person. And then they tabulate all the points. And at the end of the thing, they say, this was the number 1 surfer of the year, and number 2 and number 3 and number 4, whatever. I was surprised how little Felipe's on that list. So he was on there last year, and he was on there more the year before. And so you kind of look at that matrix, and then also the ranking competitively, and you go, dude, if you're not staying in that top 5 and actually being dominant in that top 5, and now you're falling out of this other calculus as well, then you need to re-examine what's going on.
Yeah, great point. I find myself, shaking my head going, really, am I discounting Felipe Toledo right now? And
no, you're not.
I know.
It's reality, because there's too much. Griffin Colapinto is right there with him. Kalohe Andino is right there with him. And in addition, those guys are, Griffin doing daily, certainly weekly, but even daily kind of edits to maintain his fan base. And Kalohe doing a feature film and getting out there and mixing it up with people. So they're remaining relevant. Felipe, on the other hand, I feel like he's focused on family right now, which is fine. It's a decision.
Yeah, it just reminds me of kind of like Jordy about 4 years ago, or Julian 2 years ago, where you're like, I hate to say it, but I'm not putting any money on those guys,
Right. So, before we get into that Stab thing or whatever else, do you have any potential eddy for swells in the forecast? Because Hawaii is going off the eddy. They said they're gonna green light it, or they're certainly they did the opening ceremony, and they're potentially going to run this year. So where is the swell?
Well, let me take a quick peek, but what I was thinking is that You remember how Derek Hine used to do this like top 44 year in review,
Power
and
rankings.
a power rankings thing. Yeah. And he would do this up or down thing,
Oh
which
yeah,
is
yeah.
which is what I think, if not Stab, we should consider like throwing some of this out there. Like, because we just said Felipe's, in our opinion, Felipe's either staying level or going down.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's like who is on the rise and who's staying level and who's going down. So when I look at this Stab Surf of the Year thing, that's kind of what I think. Now, of course, we could do that specifically to competitive surfers on the CT. But Stab, of course, is kind of doing it from a cultural perspective, like everyone, you know, whoever's got the most, you know, cultural mojo, i.e. edits on social media, getting a lot of attention, you know, sort of like the Mason Hose of the world.
Yeah, Mason's actually number 4 on the list. So, and they're interviewing everybody from Kelly Slater to Betty Lou Sakura Johnson, you know, upcoming rookie female.
So how are they doing this exactly? Like, so can you, I know you just kind of walked me through it, and I'm reading it right here.
Yeah, they ask each person, Dane Reynolds, Ryan Miller, Morgan Moss, and all these influencers or, you know, surf luminaries, who are your 5 favorite surfers, male? Who are your 5 favorite females? What's your favorite edit of the year? And what's your favorite surf film of the year? And they assign a point value, you know, number 1 gets 5 points, number 2 gets 4 points or whatever.
Yeah, yeah,
and then and so at the end they tabulate it, and they tabulate it along the way. So right now we have a running total. Currently, John Florence is rated 1st, Idolo's 2nd, Gabriel's 3rd, Mason's 4th, Kaloe's 5th. Interestingly, Benji Brand, sponsorless Benji Brand, is number 6 because of, I think, his amazing section in Snapped 4. And then Tom Curran, very interestingly, is rated 7th, probably because of Free Scrubber. And then on the women's side, it's Carissa, Steph, Katie Simmers, interestingly, and then Betty Lou Sakura Johnson is 4th.
So I'm looking at this, I'm checking out Dane Reynolds's picks, right? What sticks out to you about Dane's picks for Surfer of the Year?
He picks his friends.
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, he's got Idolo as number 1.
Yeah, that's interesting. But other than that, I feel like he picks his friends. I feel like that's what a lot of people are doing.
You know what sticks out to me is there's no John in his top 5.
That is interesting.
Right? Like,
yeah.
You're telling me
who are his
Florence
top
is
5?
Idolo, Jack Robinson, Craig Anderson, friend alert. Mikey February, friend alert, because it's Channel Islands probably. There's
and Vans.
And then Adam Vers.
It's his buddy.
That's his buddy. I mean, a great surfer from Ventura, but okay.
Yeah, and so that's the thing, that Stab's objective here is to see who the best surfers of the year are, and nobody could make the argument that Adam Vers is on the top of the list of best surfers of the year. I would argue there's no evidence to argue that Craig Anderson is on that list either, you know, other than they're best friends, they co-own a brand together. And so let's go ahead and give him as much hype as you can. But that's fine. People pick their friends, you know, there's no rules in this, so they're allowed to, but it's not exactly
now, is there a list of who gets to send in their top 5 surfers of the year, male and female?
No, they don't advertise that list in advance. You just kind of see it revealed as they go through the series.
So we've seen Dane Reynolds, right? But I haven't seen, let's see if there's day 1 here that I'm missing.
So,
okay, so they got Mick Fanning.
It's going to be tough to kind of sift through, find the articles. They're doing them every few days, so you'd have to kind of go back. But I'll tell you what's interesting or what I thought was interesting. Kelly Slater's name is barely mentioned as people's favorite surfer or surfer of the year. Kai Lenny's name is barely mentioned.
That's bullshit.
Both of them appear on a few people's lists, but they're not number 1 for anybody's list. They're like number 4, number 5, and they haven't accumulated enough points to even come into the top 10.
So Mick Fanning, you know, it's weird. Like, so I look at it and I'm like, okay, where's the subjectivity? Where's the bias here?
Mick picks
by the
sponsors.
Way, I noticed it's like Rip Curl. It's a bunch of Rip Curl people, you know? And so it's like, does he get this? And does he reach out to the guys at Rip Curl and go, hey, Dylan, Neil, any suggestions how I should do this? You know, here's kind of who I think, but should I keep it within the family, so to speak? You know, because he picked Gabe Medina. Okay, Garen, I agree with that. Morgan Sibilik.
Yeah, they're both Rip Curl guys.
Idolo Ferreira.
So that's not, but Idolo's obviously one of the best surfers in the world.
Medalist.
Yeah.
Owen Wright.
Yeah.
Rip curl.
Yeah.
Baron Mamiya.
I think that's a legit call.
Yeah, he's talking about the snapped floor performance. And, part of it too is there, like you just said, there's no right or wrong answer. I'm not trying to say that, they can't say whoever they want. I'm just looking at it. I'm trying to read between the lines.
Yeah. It is what it is, but
Yeah.
it's a fun exercise. And I think that could be a completely earnest response from Mick, because we're all influenced. None of us would give an objective answer in who we thought the best surfer was, because we're influenced by our friends and who we see surfing at the beach regularly, all that kind of stuff.
Oh, for sure.
Mick's been on a bunch of trips with those guys that are from Rip Curl, so they're friends.
Yeah, it's a cool thing. I mean, once again, Stab sort of owns the surf editorial space, in my opinion. Like I
they're
can't.
killing it.
Yeah, they kind of are.
Well,
and then what's weird about that is they're not weird, but what's interesting about that is that, it's got an Australian lean a little bit. Would you agree with that or no?
it started that way and it's wavered at times, but yeah, I'd say it still leans that way a little
Which
bit.
is okay, by the way. I mean, when you think about their engagement with surfing, it's through the roof. So
yeah. I think one thing that I take from this series is, if you aren't completely dominating in competition, if you want to be a professional surfer and you're trying to stay relevant, if you're not completely dominating in competition, then you better be lighting up the internet, because those are the names that we see filling out this top 10 this year. So Mason Ho sitting in 4th is meaningful. Benji Brand sitting in 6th, Tom Curran in 7th. Those are meaningful. And it's because they're self-publishing. They're promoting themselves. And so they will remain relevant to sponsors and earn a living off of surfing. And so for the competitive surfers who aren't, in that top 10 conversation or top 5 conversation, they should be focusing energy on the internet.
Yeah, I'm going through some of these ones. It's kind of interesting. But look, if you don't have a Stab premium thing, now would be the time to get it if you're interested in seeing where we're at with all of this. As the results ran, and I think you gave them, do you want me to give them again?
Sure.
So, John John's in 1st, Elo's in 2nd, tied with Morgan, Sibilic. There's a tie for 3rd, Gabe Medina, Mason Ho, Nat Young.
You're reading an outdated list. That's not up to them. Yeah.
This is day 1 results. So.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's all right though. So the one final thought on this is Caitlin Simmers. I think she's ranked 3rd currently. She came out of nowhere this year and she's blowing up. She qualified for the tour. She was doing all the Stab stuff, Stab High and all that. And I think she's a real threat on tour. So shout out to Caitlin and congrats on that.
Yeah, good stuff. So regarding the Eddy and looking at swell potential for the Eddy, did you get some sort of, are you getting some yellow light stuff from them, or are you just wondering if there's anything?
No, I just want to keep tabs on it regularly, because they obviously did that opening ceremony and they said they're going to run this year if there's a potential swell. And I was like, dude, I'll believe it when I see it. Pulling that event together, I'll believe it when I see it. And so is there swell on the horizon?
Not a Waimea swell, no, but there's some pretty solid swell.
Yeah, there's pipe swell. There's Hawaii. It looks good for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, it does. There's a lot of west swell coming in, and it does look good. I'm going, yeah, what?
Did you see John John's waves at Backdoor yesterday or 2 days ago?
No, are you seeing something?
There was I only saw the surf line angle of it. I haven't seen like an actual professional photographer's angle, but it's freaking unreal. He gets this wave at Backdoor. He got 2 actually, but one is like a double barrel. That's just, it is a reminder that, I mean, honestly, it's my must-see moment. Whatever happens throughout the year is fine and dandy, but Pipeline in the winter reigns supreme. It's unbelievably reliable, and that it just is going to create the most dramatic moments and the most compelling and require the most skill as well. And so to see kind of Hawaii's crowned prince step up and so comfortably wear that crown just feels like everything's right in the world. I love seeing it.
Yeah, I do too. And you're right. You mentioned 2 weeks ago, it's like pre-Christmas without pipeline seems wrong.
Yeah.
And it is. And it is. So next Tuesday, there's some potential for large, extra large west-northwest swell. Could even be stronger. So we're looking at 4 to 5 times overhead, 25-foot waves. Is that enough for the eddy people to pull the trigger? I don't know.
See how it develops.
They're all kind of waiting to see how the thing performs. But I mean, Hawaii right now, 6 to 8, epic to good, 10 to 15 on Thursday, epic to good. It's just, Hawaii is the place to be if you're trying to get some waves here this winter, and hopefully some of that translates into California.
Yeah. And I mentioned the Backdoor shootout. In previous last couple of years, they have not been streaming that event live. So there's nothing to report there on where to watch it or if you'll be able to watch it. But you'll see clips of it after the fact. Scott Bass, it is 2022. Do you have any predictions for this new year?
Yeah, my prediction is I think we're going to be blown away by the women at Pipeline in February.
I do too.
I think we're going to be, it's funny, for years and years, we're like, the girls can't surf pipe. The girls, I mean, I was one of them. I'm like, nope, they don't ever get time in the water there. I think the local guys, I think the girls have put in some time there. I think the local guys are behind it. The Jamie O'Briens of the world are like, you can hear them talk positively about it. I think when the girls are out there, the local girls, they're getting their chance finally, and a lot of that is, I don't know why, to be honest with you. I'm just assuming that these guys all have girlfriends and wives and they're all having dinner and they're going, why aren't you getting the cute little local girl, let her have some waves? He's like, you know what, I will. And again, that's a pretty huge assumption I'm just making there, that there's dinner conversation that's driving this. But there's a lot of Coco Hose and Michael Hose. There's a lot of dudes there's a lot of female surfers on the North Shore now, and it's just a matter of time, and the time is now.
So the names in that conversation, Moana Jones Wong has proven herself out there, so she would need a wild card into the event. Sage Erickson was working with, or not Sage, I'm sorry, Tatiana Weston Webb was working with Ross Williams last year at Pipe specifically, preparing, because that event moved from Maui because of the shark attack to Pipeline. And so she was doing some like last minute studying and cramming with Ross out there, with Ross kind of blocking waves for her and stuff. So she would be a threat out there. Carissa Moore, of course, has gotten barreled significantly at Backdoor and Pipe, and she's been working with Jamie O'Brien. So that would be a huge bet. And then I've got to say, Caitlin Simmers, she just released an edit and she got a couple of waves at Backdoor. They were good waves. They weren't like big, scary waves, but they were good waves. And she looked stable, comfortable,
how old
confident.
is she?
15.
Oh my God. And she's from Hawaii?
She's from Ventura.
Oh, okay.
So she would, it's so easy each year to get so hyped and excited about these rookies, and then they inevitably get steamrolled by more seasoned competitors. I still have high hopes for her. And I'm wondering if you can be young enough to where you're not actually steamrolled, where you're just so young, you don't know what you don't know, and you just charge ahead, because she could be that competitor.
Well, we spoke a couple of weeks ago about who the wild cards are, because to me, that's sort of the key. I would love to find out who the female wild cards are for the Pipe event, and hopefully they're local girls.
If it's not Moana, then I don't
wrong.
have any clue who it would be,
Yeah.
Because she's the one.
And Caitlin's on the tour, right?
Yep. And Betty Lou Sakura Johnson just got on tour too, so she can do well there.
She's a Haleiwa lady, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Woman. Yeah. That's good. All right.
Well,
Well, that's one of my predictions. What about you?
Julian Wilson will be starting his own clothing brand.
Well, you're going out on a limb there, bros.
I'm actually not. I have heard rumblings, and I think that this could be true. And I think that he could be late to the game, late to the party. And in the way that John came up and won a world title under his feet, and John came up and started a clothing brand, I feel like Julian, it's just a little too little too late. But I expect Julian, look, he's been sponsorless. He hasn't. So obviously he's off Hurley. He could have signed with any number of companies in this last 8 months or a year, whatever it's been. Why hasn't he? It's because he's got something in the works. And I don't know what the focus of the clothing brand would be. I don't know what the name would be. I have a hard time imagining Julian Wilson finding a very distinct brand in that space and successfully bringing it to market. I have low hopes that this actually becomes successful. That is my prediction.
Okay. That's a pretty good one. That's a pretty good one.
Like John has a brand already established that he can build a clothing brand on, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like he's a sailor, he's a waterman, like, and so Expedition is the focus of that brand. Dane Reynolds, even, you could argue, he's got this kind of artistic aesthetic thing, him and Craig Anderson. So it's this punk rock thing. What is Julian's? Is Julian's going to be a yoga, like an athleisure brand, general health and fitness?
That would be okay. I mean, I'm not saying I'm buying into that, but that would make sense.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is.
Yeah.
Because I don't see it being like a straight surf brand. Because what's the angle there? Is it punk rock? Is it being the best surfer of all time? No, Kelly's done that. Kelly's thing is sustainability. So he's got a little angle. I don't know what Julian's angle would be. So athleisure might be it.
All right. Well, that's a pretty good one. My prediction for 2022 is that sadly we're going to see a horrific foiling accident where somebody sadly loses their life, and there's going to be heightened exposure on safety regarding foiling.
That is a very macabre prediction, Scott.
Thank you very much.
I agree with it, though. And I would go a step further and say, sure, foiling, but it could be big wave. It could be jet ski related. It could be wave pool related. Like surfing's more crowded now than it's ever been before. And so it's absolutely, there's higher risk this year than there's ever been before. And there's more chaos in the lineup. There's less etiquette in the lineup. And then you add foils, jet skis. I mean, the Gold Coast, we were saying Hawaii was going off. The Gold Coast has been absolutely going off this past week. And there's jet skis buzzing around the lineup. It's like somebody's gonna get hit by that thing.
Yeah, we've spoken about it at length. It just doesn't make sense. I'm not sure how the authorities let that happen, but
they don't. I mean, they fine people, but people still do it.
I just saw a stand-up paddler at Backdoor Pipe catch an average set wave, maybe a 6-foot wave, and get completely barreled and come out. Yeah.
And that's sketchy too.
Guy with a paddle in his hand. Just
so crazy. So my second and final prediction for 2022 is Kai Lenny doing mainstream television a la Kelly Slater and Baywatch.
Really? Like he's going to be an actor?
Could be The Bachelor. Doesn't need to be acting.
Okay, it could be.
Maybe it's The Bachelor. I have no idea. Actually, he's got a kid on the way, so it won't be The Bachelor. I forgot about that. But I do see a professional surfer this year, after coming off of The Ultimate Surfer, stuff like that, a professional surfer going back to mainstream television the way that Kelly did with Baywatch. But I'm making an additional prediction that surfer will be Kai Lenny because of his fame with Mark Zuckerberg, his connection to Mark Zuckerberg, his general fame, all that stuff. Kai Lenny going mainstream.
If it wasn't Kai, who comes to mind? How about Koa Smith?
Yes and no. I mean, I could see an argument being made for Koa, but you could make that same argument for Luke Davis, you
Yeah.
know, or somebody who's actually like I don't know.
Yeah, Kai's got
And
all these big, the Tag Heuer connection, and so
yeah,
he's more of a internet, like a global star.
it could be
No one knows Koa.
right. It could be Laird Hamilton or that kid Lucas Padua who's hanging out with Laird, you know, because they're just in that scene. They're in Malibu, but they're inviting Hollywood people over to the house and all that sort of stuff. So
Guess who it was I saw get piped on their stand-up paddleboard at Backdoor right just now?
Dwayne DeSoto,
Kai Lenny.
shut up.
I swear to God, he's coming into the beach right now. I'm looking at his board. It's him.
Hilarious.
That's the guy that just got a barrel.
I bet that was strictly for an Instagram clip or a YouTube thing.
You'll
Just like,
probably be
hey,
seeing it.
yeah, hey, I'm gonna go out there on a, you know, something that people don't ride and do something gnarlier than everybody else.
He just came in, and
Surprised he didn't come out and do an air reverse on that thing.
when he was on the inside, just kind of finishing his wave, he was getting a little tricky.
There you go.
Yep.
Cool. Well, do you have any world title predictions for 2022?
Gosh. Okay, a couple things. One is, there could be a prediction that the world tour gets tweaked because of the COVID situation. It's weird. Like the general vibe seems to be Omicron's not that bad. If you're vaccinated, you're good. You just get a little cold if you have a breakout thing. And so let's move on with our lives. And that would be great. I would love that. But there's also, like, I guess this, I don't know what the word is, but I guess there's this thought that I have that there's a variant that's just kicking in right now somewhere in Africa where people aren't vaccinated, where it's just like, the virus is just mutating in some crazy way. And that's really all it takes for it to spread like wildfire. And it's some super strong, crazy thing. And we're back to square one with a really like a Delta version, but that's contagious like Omicron.
Yeah. I think if they pulled it off last year, they'll pull it off this year. I think there is still uncertainty that you're talking about, but not so much so that we go back to square one. They might go back a step or two with lockdowns and protocols, but I don't think it'll go back to square one.
Yeah, but you're suggesting to me that there's not going to be, so you don't think that they would just shut down Australia and not allow anyone in? The Australian government.
What I'm suggesting is that the WSL will still crown champ at the end of the year. So you're right, it might be a altered schedule, but I don't think that they'll cancel the tour completely.
Yeah. Okay, so let's say we have a full tour, which I'm hoping we do, and everyone's hoping that we do. I sense that the world champion, this is kind of a long shot. The world champion could be Jack Robinson.
Wow. That is a long shot.
Well, think about it. This is why I'm basing this on pipe pumping. I'm basing it on sunset pumping. Comes out of that looking good. He then goes to Australia, and we have big Margaret Raver, right?
Which could run at North Point.
Box or North Point.
Yeah,
right?
or box, yeah.
Then, he's in a strong spot. He gets a couple fifths and ninths, whatever. Then he goes to G-Land, and it's pumping G-Land, and he comes out of that with a third. And, then do we go to J Bay or no?
Yeah.
Yes. So J Bay's on the docket. Let's say he gets a third or a fifth. I could see him stringing together. Yeah, Chopu. So I could see him stringing together, thirds, fifths, a first, a second, a first, another third, a fifth, a ninth, and boom, we've got a world title for Jack Robinson. This is all dependent on Dream Tour style waves.
Yeah, it's a great call. He could absolutely do all of that, but the argument against it is right next to him at all of those venues is John Florence, Gabriel Medina, and maybe even Idolo.
I said it was a long shot.
Aside from Sunset, because Jack is who I'd put my money on at Sunset.
It's a long shot.
I like it though.
Obviously
it's bold.
There's 5 guys, maybe only 4 guys
Yeah,
that are going to win this thing.
it's bold. I hope that happens, by the way. I would love nothing more. I'm such a big fan. And watching him in Stab's latest, The Pickup, episode 3, they do a whole segment on Jack Robinson's waves that he got on his birthday, his 24th birthday, I guess, last week. And Pipe was pumping, and they show his whole session out there, and it's freaking unreal. It's a highlight reel, Backdoor, Pipe. He's the real deal. So I would love to see that come to fruition. My title prediction prior to you saying that is it'll be a 3-way race. John's back in shape. So of course, Gabriel and then Idolo is the third person. And I am going to put my money on Idolo in that exchange between those 3. For one specific reason that could be entirely wrong, but it feels in the postseason since last year that Gabriel's interest in getting another world title has been a little bit diffused. He's talked about being exhausted from living the lifestyle that he's been living for over a decade. He's gaga over his wife. And I just see that diffused interest as hindering the spirit that's required to win a world title. So John Florence coming back off of injury is a legitimate threat, and he'll be wanting to make up some of the ground that he lost to Gabriel Medina. But he's married as well. He has a clothing brand. I think that he has more going on than just wanting to win a world title. Idolo is the one guy who I see who has laser focus, and he's posting so many gym selfies that you cannot deny his 8-pack. You know what I mean? Like he's, unless narcissism distracts from winning a world title, but I don't think it does. I think it actually supports it. I see him as being the guy who's like heat in, heat out, event in, event out, regardless of coronavirus, regardless of what's going on at home, regardless, he's the guy.
Singularly focused is what I think.
At least for this year.
With Idolo. And he was going to be my pick before I threw out a long shot. And I'll say this, the edits that he's been putting out from that island off the east coast of Brazil, I don't know how to pronounce it. It's like Noronha or whatever. Which one? Isla de Noronha or what? I don't know.
Yeah.
Noronha is an orange,
but
you know what I mean. They're crazy. Like the edits that he's been putting out are full speed. Like the free surfing he's doing is it's like on steroids. It's just crazy. The shit, like the 40-foot radical all transitions hitting, everything smooth and it's like Kai Lenny kind of level stuff where it's just like whoa, hold on, man, you're it's like,
and it's one after
Clay
another.
Marzo on steroids, basically.
Yeah. And so injury is the one thing that could actually thwart him, but all of that cross training that I'm talking about and fitness will hopefully mitigate injury. I agree with you about his clips that he's been dropping. And then the stuff from at home, I think Formosa, the little right-hander, he posted a clip the other day of he burns a guy, just blatantly burns a guy, and then does a huge backflip in front of him, and you're just like, the backflip was so gnarly. And it is a clip that would break the internet, except he does it every other day. And so it somehow just falls on deaf ears.
Yeah, that's actually another interesting, I don't know if it's a prediction for 2022, but it will be interesting to see. And you're sort of you're really the poster child for commenting about how the judges expect things from certain guys and they don't expect things from other guys, and so that they get pushed up. And you're like, Idolo, he does that all the time, that's a 6. And then Owen Wright does it, and you're like, oh my God, 9.8.
Totally.
And it's not even as good as And so my prediction and or hope is that there's some level of evening out of the acrobatic judging that takes place, how they judge the acrobats, how they judge the aerials, how they for each guy, so that there's a little bit more objectivity. Let's see what happens there.
I have the same hope. I don't know that it's even doable. I think it might just be a futile attempt in surfing
Well, it's
because
almost subconscious, right?
it
Like,
is
I mean, you and
totally,
I do it. We're like, oh yeah, Elo, what did you expect? Of course he did that, you
totally.
know?
I mean, and
And Wade
beyond,
Carmichael, I don't think he's going to do that. And when he does, you're like, oh my God, that's a 20.
yeah, exactly. And beyond it operating in your subconscious, we all have favorite surfers. Those judges love surfing and they came up with favorites. And how does that not affect your judging? It would be impossible to divorce yourself from that. You see your favorite paddling out. It's like, what are you going to do?
It's interesting. You often hear commentators, the ones that have the chutzpah to make these kind of calls when they see a wave, they'll be like, "Oh my God, well he did that," and to my mind, because he did that extra thing there, and the power and the flow and everything that went down, that should be an 8.5. Ross Williams is like this. Barton Lynch is like this. Why not make these guys the judges, for God's sakes? I know that Ross, there's a conflict of interest, of course, but you just mentioned, look, the judges themselves have their favorite surfers. Of course, it's probably not as deep as the conflict of interest with Ross Williams, who's a coach. But
Yeah.
I mean, I think Barton Lynch would be a great judge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it would be. It's just he's also a great commentator, and that's probably harder to find and train somebody for commentating.
Yeah. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Question, prediction, if you will. Does Kelly Slater make the cutoff, mid-season cutoff?
Great question.
We got Pipe, we got Sunset. We go to Australia. He might not even go to Australia, although you mentioned that they are the country seemingly kind of liberating and opening their borders to travelers.
This is a tough prediction to make.
Where else do we go early in the season? Like, do we go to Brazil before the cutoff?
Not early in the season. I'm looking it up as quickly as I can.
Yeah, I have it here too.
Okay. Pipe, hold on, it's showing all the tours. Okay, Pipe, Sunset, Portugal, Bells, Margaret, and I think that's the cutoff.
It is. So Kelly can go to Portugal, or can he without
I think so. Yes. So he could do good at Pipe. I don't think he'll do great at Sunset. He'll go to Portugal, let's say. He's not like a real contender there either. So let's say he finishes 17th or 9th there. Bells, he could win in theory, although he hasn't really placed well in recent years. Margaret River, I don't view him as a threat there. So yeah, a couple of like maybe quarterfinal finishes and then a couple of lower finishes.
Like a third at Pipe and then a bunch of ninths and then a, equals whatever it is, 17th or 15th or whatever. And
if I had to bet money, I'd bet against him.
I think it's a pretty interesting bet, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then let me throw out another one for you, because I sense that there's going to be somebody that we don't expect that's like on the bubble for the cut. And you're like, what?
For sure.
How's he on? And so of the top 10, who's the guy that you're like,
Felipe.
Pardon me. Okay. That's a good one, right? We talked about that. That could be one for sure.
Felipe.
And Gabe.
No, Gabe won it.
Well, you just mentioned that there's all this,
but he'd do well at Pipe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I see Felipe coming out of Hawaii with bad results and his confidence shook.
Yeah.
And so then how do you recover that in the back half? And I could see
Kanoa?
No, Kanoa's consistent.
Kanoa's too much of a competitor.
Yeah. Kaloe could be a wild card. But then the thing is there's also so much new good talent. So if Felipe comes out of Hawaii shook, and then there's a couple of young guys who did well in Hawaii. Carlos Munoz has actually done well in Hawaii before. He's gotten 10s at Pipe. He's
tons of experience. He probably has 15 years of experience there, maybe more.
Totally. He's finaled at the Volcom event there and stuff. So if Felipe then finds himself in the back half being seeded against the John and Gabriel and all that kind of stuff going into Portugal, it could really, that could throw a spanner in the works for sure.
A spanner?
Yeah. Him and Kelly vying it out for qualification for
Kelly
the
and
cut line.
Felipe maybe not making the cut. Those are bold predictions.
You heard it here first.
Kelly, not so much, as Felipe is kind of a crazy, bold one.
Kind of moving on from that, Stab is doing this 50 days of Kelly, which is, I don't know what.
What, 50 years? No, it's 50 years of Kelly.
Yeah, and each day they're doing a particular story. So they get like a photo from, some of them are like deep in the archives, some of them are recent, and then they get the photographer to share their story about Kelly. And they're doing this for 50 days straight. I think they're on day 12 or something.
Yeah.
But they put out a casting call. They said, you know, do you have a Kelly story? Reach out to us and we might actually publish it. Essentially, I think they're running short on whether they're going to hit their 50 target or not. So they're asking the audience, but I think it's a great idea because a lot of random people probably do have great stories of encountering Kelly in the water somewhere. So my question to you, Scott, is do you have a Kelly story?
I mean, I don't have a great one. The only story I have about Kelly is, you mean that involves me?
I don't know. Just have you encountered him, and are there any interesting?
I 1 year in Hawaii, he had dinner with like Evan Slater invited him to have dinner with the surfer staff at Haleiwa Joe's, and I sat next to Kelly and we had dinner, and I was just more a fanboy, starstruck. I don't even think I said anything to him. I might have said one thing, but I just sat there and listened. I just gobbled it all up because it was kind of like Kelly's table, you know, like it was all the surfer staffer, Evan, and, you know, all of the guys, you know, whoever was there surveying. I forget who was there, Jake Howard and me and blah, blah, blah. But Evan had invited him. And so Kelly sat next to me and it was just fun.
That's cool.
You know, yeah, I don't have much other than, and I've interviewed him a few times on my radio and podcasts and stuff. But I don't have a great Kelly story now.
If you had to pick between a session at, or let's say a day at Surf Ranch, or 18 holes at Torrey Pines with him. So 18 holes at Torrey Pines with Kelly, or a day at Surf Ranch with Kelly, what would you pick?
Surf Ranch.
Yeah.
Because I'm a surfer who golfs. I'm not a golfer who surfs.
Good answer.
You know
I would
what
expect
I mean?
nothing less.
This looks really cool though. I hadn't seen this and I'm just checking it out, and it looks pretty cool. Like I love that, like they got Mez, you know, they got Dick Meserol, and they got all these photographer types, and
yeah,
cool.
I'm already over it, to be honest.
Oh, really?
Like
okay, well, I'm just
a couple days into it. I was like, oh, this is kind of interesting. Day 12, I'm like, don't care anymore.
Yeah, maybe they're not that. So they're doing 1 day for every year because he's turning 50 or something.
Yeah, I think something like that.
Yeah.
Do you remember we have Dave Prodan on this show 5 or 6 years ago, and he told us that Kelly Slater listens to this podcast?
Oh, I find that hard to believe. Maybe.
Do you remember that?
No, I don't remember Dave saying that, but
Dave mentioned it kind of in passing, like some comment was made and you go, yeah, well, maybe Kelly Slater will listen to this. And then Dave, like in complete seriousness, was like, no, Kelly listens. And we were like, yeah, whatever. Like, and he goes, no. Like, I'll tell you, Kelly listens to the podcast. He and I have talked about it. And that was a highlight moment for me. I was like, oh shoot, maybe we should be a little bit more considerate.
There's so much stuff, and he has such a wide variety of interests that I'm sure that occasionally maybe he'll listen if he's bored and he's on a flight or something.
I don't think he's like a passionate,
no,
you know,
he's not
listener.
sending in donations to us like our great listeners.
No. But I still, at that moment, I was like, oh man, I need to really be more thoughtful with my criticisms and assessments.
I think that that's the case for everybody we talk about. I often find myself cringing, going, you know what? Maybe I was too, like, I don't want to be a dick to people on this show, you know, like I don't, and I know you don't either, but we also, it's our job to tell our opinions, you know, and they are just that. They're worthless opinions, and they're not, you know, they don't hold too much, you know, we're not out to be mean, you know, like we're out to be, hopefully, you know, like spirited and engaging and some provocative thoughts maybe, but certainly don't want to be mean-spirited.
I don't want to be mean-spirited, and I'm actually not mean-spirited in my nature.
Yeah.
But what I do want to be on the show is honest.
Yes.
And so learning how to be critical, honest, and allow yourself to be critical without being mean-spirited or a dick has been a learning curve for me. And I think I've figured it out for the most part. I can navigate that pretty successfully for the last couple of years, maybe not successfully early on. But I think the latest development for me as a podcaster in the last year or two has been, I don't care if Kelly thinks I'm a dick, like I feel comfortable now being critical of people that I once venerated and maybe would have held back criticism about. Now it's like, I don't need to be best friends with Kelly ever. And so if there's something critical that I want to say about him, I'm fully comfortable saying it. Or there was a time where I thought maybe big brands would sponsor us, so let's be nice about them, or let's be friends with the WSL because there's opportunity to work together there. All of that is out the window at this point. It's kind of like I'd rather be critical honestly about the things that we're experiencing.
Yeah, for sure.
Here and the business model is we don't need their funding anyways. Like, let fans give us $5 a month and they can fund us, and then we can be honest and critical.
And I don't think we have any lack of that either. I mean, you and I am more or less feel like I'm just having a conversation with you. And oh yeah, by the way, somebody might be listening to this. Oh shit.
Exactly. Which is why when Dave said that one time, I was like, oh shoot, I got to run a new filter through everything I say.
No worries.
Well, I'll give you one quick Kelly story. It was before I even had my license. So I was not even 16 years old. And my parents would drop me off at the beach, usually Huntington or Newport. And so my older brother got assigned to pick me up on this particular day. And I surfed, it was in the summertime. I surfed all day, Southside Huntington. And I'm like sitting on the curb. I think it was before Dukes that restaurant was even there, but there was still like a little turnaround thing that parents could pick up their kids at. So I'm like sitting on the curb, like with my backpack on, completely exhausted and fried right before the sun went down, waiting for my older brother to come pick me up. And into the parking lot in a rental car, like a Honda Civic or something, Kelly Slater pulls in with his girlfriend. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's Kelly. I think it was US Open was in town. So I'm like, that's Kelly Slater. And he gets out and he starts changing to go surfing right before dark. And my brother pulls up to pick me up. And I'm like, Eric, go do another lap. I'm staying here. I just want to survey everything that Kelly does. I had no ambitions to like start a conversation with him. I wasn't going to walk over and like geek out. I wanted to see like, how does he put on his wetsuit? What does he do with his wax? What does he do with his board? What does he do? And my brother was like, are you kidding me? And I'm like, no, seriously, go do a lap and then come back in 5 minutes because I just have to be here. And so sure enough, I was positioned. There was a stairwell at the time too that you had to walk down. So Kelly had to walk past me to go down those stairs to go surf. And when he walked by, I mustered up the courage and I was like, hey, Kelly, my voice probably cracked or something. Yeah. And he was polite and said, hey, what's up? Or something like that. But he just kept his beeline. Like he didn't want to stop and have a conversation. He just wanted to get past because he probably had so many fans.
Well, plus it's getting dark. He's only got 20 minutes.
Totally. So he just kept his head down. He's like, hey, what's up? And he just kept going. But that was the highlight. I lived on that high for weeks. I went back to high school, told my friends every little detail of that story.
Yeah.
So, and I saw him catch a wave or two also. Like, I don't know if my brother, what happened, but it was long enough to where I saw him rip a left into the pier and I was like, dang, that was sweet.
So I just got a text from Randy Rarick and he's like, there's 50 young pros out here at Sunset, all trying to get their triple crown wave for Vans,
Totally.
He sent me pictures. I'm going through them right now. I don't know who these guys are.
Tell Randy to get out there.
Oh, he'll get out there. Believe me, that guy he gets his waves.
All right. Well, you got a must-see moment, Duke or Kook, anything like that?
Well, yeah, my must-see moment is this Cousteau documentary, because I think it's really important regarding, our oceans,
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah. And so I'll let that speak for itself. And then, I don't know if I have a Duke or a Kook other than, I think my Duke Kanemoku is Shukin for generously sending me this cool book on, I had it all the time. So I'm looking forward to reading this, and thank you, Shukin.
You and I, here's the deal. You and I do have it all the time. The family that you are the patriarch of and that you raised is the dream sitch for so many people. Your home, the location of your home, your kids going to college, the amount that you get to surf, all of that stuff. You have it all the time,
Absolutely.
And I do too.
And gratitude in the morning is what helps me realize that, so there's some moments of gratitude that when that happens, usually there's me acknowledging that I do have it all the time. So
yeah,
thanks for bringing that up.
My must-see moment is John's backdoor bomb. Look at it on Surfline's Instagram feed, and then Stab actually reposted Surfline Cam's footage of it. It's just unreal. My Duke, this is coming out of left field, but you'll understand. Do you know where Alex Gray spent quarantine? 8 months of quarantine.
I have heard a lot of interesting things about Alex Gray in the last month. And
what'd you hear?
I heard that he's living large, and he makes Wingnut's gig look like small potatoes. I don't know who it is, but he's got some big celebs paying him big money to go surfing with him, and it's somewhere like probably like the Caribbean or Monaco or somewhere gnarly.
Which celebs?
I was told the celebs, but I can't really remember. But it was like A-list, like Kanye type, like way up there, like big time A-list, like peak of the moment, pop culturally wise. It's like whoever's the hottest shit right now today, Alex Gray's like their surf guide.
Yeah.
And he's killing it. He's like making like $5,000 a day or something.
So Alex, I just recorded a podcast with him. I'll publish it this week. He spent 8 months of quarantine on Fiji.
That's it. Okay.
How's that?
And was he with like Kanye or somebody like that?
No.
Better, much better than Kanye.
He was the only professional surfer there. He got in kind of in this crazy moment, got to Fiji, and then they locked everything down. And a couple of other he was the only pro surfer, but like people yachted in or sailed in. So there was a couple of boats anchored off the island, but for all intents and purposes, Alex Gray was the really only legitimate surfer surfing Cloudbreak for 8 months.
Yeah.
And he's fully capable of handling it on its kind of biggest days.
Oh yeah.
And he got it in every shape, size. And I mean, he showed me photos, gym selfies from the day he landed there. He's a fit professional surfer until the day he left. He looks like a freaking Adonis.
Yeah.
And he realized early into the trip, if I'm going to surf when the waves are good, it could be 8 hours a day. And I can't do that if I'm not fit. And so in addition to surfing as often as he was hitting the gym and had a regimen for an hour or two a day, ice baths, the whole nine. But then it would get, you'd have a week of no waves or wind or whatever. So then he'd just double down in the gym on those days. The guy is hulking, like radical. So shredded, renewed lease on life, like completely altered perspective for the rest of his life. And surfing, of course, the best wave in the world by himself ad nauseum.
Do you remember Surfer Magazine online? We did a thing where we took a group of surfers down Baja in those new Honda Element cars.
Yeah.
And Alex Gray was on that trip. And he was just a classic guy, just the way he is probably right now. He's just a really sweet guy. And he was charging, and I remember one of the purpose of this trip was to raise awareness for the Honda Element, of course, but along the way we had these like things that the surfers had to do besides surfing to gain points, kind of like a reality show.
Yeah.
And one of the things was when we were in Rosarito was ride a donkey, just like
a random one.
No, it was donkey races. I think it was what it was.
Oh, okay.
So we got these donkeys. We like rented these donkeys. And Alex Gray, man, that guy was fully involved. He just got on the thing and just absolutely charged, like with his, like just being Alex Gray, just ripping it up, like everyone else was like, okay, hanging on and going, I think Greg, Greg was on that trip. Greg
Long.
Yeah, thank you, Greg Long. Anyway, Alex Gray, classic. Now, who are the isn't it some like A-list family? You don't have to tell me the name on the air, but
We did not actually have that discussion, so I'm not sure who it is.
Yeah.
But he did say one of those guys that sailed in and had a sailboat docked, and he was a pretty average surfer at the beginning of that stay, but he did hire Alex to do coaching sessions, and he said they did 80 sessions together. And this guy, his whole goal was to get barreled. And so Alex tells the story of this guy's first barrel, and it's freaking insane. It's such a rad story considering where this guy started. And again, he's surfing Cloudbreak. It's so you can get barreled there, but it's also a challenging wave. And
super challenging.
And so if you're starting out as a surfer, he wasn't an absolute beginner, but he was a novice surfer, surfing Cloudbreak, having Alex train him through 80 sessions, and then going out on a day that's 6 to 8 feet and actually getting a proper barrel. It's insane. And I've seen the footage of the barrel because that guy's girlfriend was running a drone. So she actually got his first barrel ever on camera, and it's an epic story, an epic barrel. So
that's cool. That's great. Good for all of them. I like to hear that.
Yeah.
I'm stoked for Alex.
All right. Well,
I was wondering what happened to Alex Gray. He kind of disappeared. And he did actually disappear. He actually disappeared.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. All right. Well, look, until next week, actually, adios and aloha.